Hello and welcome to DVI, The Inside Story. I'm your host, Tom Lemons. Today, we are investigating the process of obtaining an order of protection here in the state of Florida. These orders are more commonly referred to as domestic violence injunctions, or DVIs.
A domestic violence injunction is a special category of a court action in Florida. It's very specifically tailored to achieve a certain purpose, and basically the general population calls it a restraining order.
I've talked to many people who have been falsely accused and how that has affected their life. And I've talked to attorneys as well as people who run the Matters Intervention Program. In this report, you will hear the voices of individuals who have unwittingly fallen victim to a system originally designed to protect against violent acts.
I got married hoping that, like most people when they get married, it was going to be a life of bliss, and, obviously as you're getting older, you think that you're going to have quieter years and a bit of relaxation. Obviously I wasn't prepared for the onslaught that came.
One afternoon, I've got a sheriff knocking on my door, telling me I have 5 minutes to get out of my home, just enough time to grab some personal belongings and leave.
Yeah, I arrived home for the children's birthday party, and it was supposed to be a surprise. And when I got home, the house was empty. I couldn't locate the children, couldn't locate their mother. Family members refused to talk to me.
It's been a little over 2 years since I've seen my little girl's face. I have no photos. No memories, nothing. She was ripped from my life, and I never got to say goodbye.
She got on the phone and phoned the police, and I was in a pair of shorts, and I thought, my God, I could get arrested here. So as I was going past the front door to go put some jeans on, I saw her outside the door, and she was rubbing her ear. And like a fool, I thought, the midges are biting her ear. Little did I realise that this was going to be part of the scenario when the police came.
My ex-wife accused me of domestic violence, and also her and her family accused me of child molestation. And essentially it all started when my ex-wife obtained a temporary injunction.
We had parenting plans going back and forth. She refused on every option I had. We tried to keep it out of court and not litigate. I say we, I think it was more myself. I tried to keep it out. Finally, we agreed to a week on, week off visitation schedule, and I was a little uneasy about it, so I went to consult with a family law attorney, and I actually retained one. Halfway through the first week that we attempted, she called the police and had me arrested for interfering with custody.
DCF wrote their report that I was abusing my daughter because I threw a remote at the couch. My wife claimed that I yelled at everybody. I raised my voice. And then here's the big one. The one that really crumbled my world and my trust in the woman I was married to, the mother of my child, the woman that ran my business, that shared my bed. She accused me of trying to kill my own child with a car.
The thing is, if there's a divorce coming up, or there's something called a paternity action, there are children without a marriage. The bottom line in many, many different counties is, in order to get into court to talk about things like child support and custody, it could take up to 5 months to get in front of a judge and discuss those issues. The inside strategy on injunctions, and a lot of attorneys know this and a lot of attorneys use it, it's a fast-track way to get into court and discuss issues such as child support and child custody, because those are normally issues an injunction court, a domestic violence court, will address within 2 weeks. So it's incredibly fast, it's free, there's no filing fee. It's a way to short circuit or bypass the normal mechanisms of the court in domestic relations.
I mean, if you take statistically the amount of domestic violence injunctions that are filed, a certain amount of those are going to be false. And there are people that play the system.
I think the system is certainly being abused. I think it's wasting a lot of tax dollars and money. I think people are being victimized by this process.
I once had a case where my client, unfortunate in his choice of paramours, he had this one lady who was a former dancer, and he met her at the bar, and they ended up having a child together. And she would try and manipulate him into giving her money for drugs. And so at one point she said, "You need to give me some money to go get some crack." And he said, "I'm not going to do that." She said, "If you don't, I'm going to beat the heck out of myself, or beat the crap out of myself, and call the police." So he left the home. And when she left the home, she looked perfectly fine. He went out to walk to the end of his property. He actually called the police himself and said that she's going to say she's going to do this. The police arrived. He's out there talking to the officer. He was speaking to. He actually had a 45-minute communication or conversation with the officer. Then the call comes in from his girlfriend saying that he just beat her up. The police go out there, and she had beat the crap out of herself. She had marks. She had a black eye, and the whole time my client was talking to a cop.
And he said, "Well, she's claiming that you thumped her in the ear." And I said, "I've never thumped a woman in my life." And basically, that's when I thought, oh, I remember the rubbing of the ear outside when she was waiting for the police. So it was a lie.
Her testimony that she gave when she made an account of what she said happened that evening was different than what she had told the police. The police actually did an investigation on it too, and even interviewed our children at her apartment. And the children also told the officer that nothing happened, that everything that she said was not true. And she actually, when she retold the story in court, she actually gave a different scenario than what she had told the police.
90% of the accusations were incidents that she claimed happened, but I was overseas during that time, so it wasn't even possible.
Her first claim of DVI, the clerk laughed at her, balled it up, told her to go home. Second time, clerk laughed at her, balled it up, told her to go home. This happened 4 times before the 5th one was finally granted. And in the order for protection, I'll read it to you verbatim, and I don't have to have it in front of me. Number 1, my husband used to be a chef. There's large sharp knives in the house. The judge asked me, "Mr. Petruska, you ever wield a knife at your wife?" "No, Your Honor. I'm a chef. I use them to cook with." Second agenda. My husband closed and locked the bedroom door and wanted to be intimate. The judge asked me, "Mr. Petruska, did you do this?" I said, "Yes, Your Honor. I've got a 33,000 square foot home. Her mother's dying of cancer. She lives with us. And I have a 10-year-old child. Respectfully, you lock your door for privacy." Once again, he looked at her and he laughed and he told her to go home, grow up, keep her personal issues out of the courtroom where they did not belong. Have a nice day. Case dismissed. Needless to say, the case wasn't dismissed.
Most of the injunctions are granted initially. When someone goes in the clerk of court is allowed to assist them preparing an injunction. And it's actually one of the few areas of law where there's an exception where someone can actually practice law without being an attorney. In this situation, the clerk of court. And the statutes actually encourage them to assist people with their petition.
The case that I had today, the same woman filed against another boyfriend in 2002. I had that petition in front of me, and the allegations of drunken behavior and controlling behavior mirrored the ones that she was making against my client. So I think people learn how to use the system, and they keep using the system because the system works for them.
This lady, who I married, has done this to 4 other people prior to me, and I've actually contacted them. And the story's the same. If you look at the reports, the police reports, the papers that are filed with court, they're almost identical, word for word. It's unbelievable.
And has anyone investigated this?
No, not yet. And I don't know whether they ever will.
I attempted several times to establish an interview with state's attorneys Bernie McCabe of the 6th District and Brad King of the 5th District of Florida. Neither office would comment on the matter. I was, however, able to get a statement from Elizabeth Gibson, an assistant state attorney for Brad King in Ocala. I asked her if she had statistics on the number of cases that were prosecuted for perjury in her district, and she replied, "Not for civil court." Then I asked her if she had ever heard of anyone being prosecuted for perjury, and she said, "Not for anyone who had lied in a domestic violence hearing."
There are no repercussions for being caught lying. We could have documents that show someone is lying, presented in court, and there's no follow-up from the prosecution end.
It's like a speed limit sign. If there's no one there to enforce it, who's going to drive the speed limit? Well, if nobody's enforcing the statute that says if you call in false reports of child abuse and neglect to the DCF hotline, who's going to abide by it?
I can't believe how somebody can betray on somebody's lie. You know, I always thought that, you know, if somebody said something about somebody, then they should look into that, and obviously look into the person that's making the accusations to see if they're, you know, telling the truth. And if they've done this before, obviously there's a sequence of events that's gone on there.
It's kind of like child molesting. If you accuse somebody of child molesting, just the accusation brands that person for the rest of their life, because nobody ever really knows whether it actually went on. Well, almost to a certain extent with domestic violence, it's like, well, he was accused, you know, that'll come up. You know, even with, let's say, Department of Children and Families does an investigation. Oh, there were 3 or 4 domestic violence injunctions filed against the guy. It doesn't say they were successful, it just said they were filed.